Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the Art of Attraction with Dominey Drew. So glad to see you back here again. We have a great show for you today. My name is Dominey Drew. I will be your host, and I am joined today by Caitlin Wright. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me back. Great to be here.
Glad to hear it. So Caitlin and I work together. We run a business. The Art of Attraction is actually the name of an online course that I do. I'm a men's relationship coach. I help single men attract life partners through personal and relationship coaching. And the way we really approach that is less sort of about tips and tricks or what to say to women and things like that. What it's really about is how is it that you're sabotaging yourself on a deep level inside that's really affecting your dating life, right? Affecting your relationship life. And so a lot of guys will come to us, they'll be like, oh, great, you help us attract women. And that's absolutely exactly what we do. The work can, however, look a little bit different than they are expecting it to. And that's because, if you think about it, you're a single guy or even a single woman, and you're out in the dating world, and you're, all the basic ways to meet people. You can go to meetups, or you can go online, or you can ask friends, or you can, go to speed dating and things like that. So like how to meet people in a logical way is actually really not that difficult. If you're an intelligent person, you've probably already tried all of the right things. So if that's the case and you are still single, then there's something going on inside, right? There's some belief, about being in a relationship, or maybe about committing to someone or letting someone in, opening to someone. I mean, being vulnerable is a huge, it's a huge block for people, because being vulnerable is scary. It's frightening. Or it can be. Even I've experienced people who are actually afraid of it going well, right? I've had a guy who was he was talking about some ex-girlfriend he had, and he was like, she just wanted to be with me, and she wanted to, I don't know, just hug him or something like that, and and he sort of said it with this tone of like, yeah, I can't believe that she would, she was wanting to do these things, and I just think to myself, so she loved you? Like, is that the problem that you had with that relationship? And that was actually the problem that he had with that relationship. So Caitlin and I, we run this business. It's Dominey Drew Coaching. You can find us on Facebook under that handle, Dominey Drew Coaching. My first name's a little bit tricky, but it's Dominey. And basically, what you can do is you can, read up about what we do. There's a lot of information, a lot of, tips, a lot of indications of what it is that we do. And you can sort of see what it is that we do. And then if you're interested, by all means, come through and schedule a time to get on the phone with us, because this work is some of the most powerful I've ever experienced. And I think Caitlin's going to tell some stories about that on today's episode. Because, going through this work, it's change. It changes you. You're actually changed by the end. Because if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always gotten, right? You're not going to, have new experiences and attract different people and have a different life if you're the same person. So if there's something that you want as much as, a relationship, then, it takes really looking inward and making changes on some pretty deep levels. Is that pretty much what you would say is the case, Caitlin?
Absolutely. Wow, just the things that I've experienced in a short amount of time have drastically changed my outlook and changed the way I think about things, and just really brought to light, well, like you said, and especially with the topic that we're speaking on today, especially with my ex, my particular one, but exes in general, just the way I view how reality is, or how things are are actually going, instead of just how I perceived them at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually that's pretty major, actually. Learning the difference between how you see a situation and how it really is probably one of the most empowering things on the planet that you can do, because it's like we have these experiences in childhood that that we perceive as negative, right? Or that sort of have impact on us, and they cause us to draw these conclusions. Okay, we come up with these sort of assumptions about life. Let's say that you had your parents divorced when you were young, and your mom left, and you have a belief that women leave. And the thing is that when you were a child and you experienced these really impactful sort of traumas, minor traumas, is that we sort of generalize our experience. So as a child, like, that was a really, really, really painful thing. And it was so painful that you thought it might actually kill you. Right. And so then what happens is you spend the rest of your life making sure that never happens again. Okay. But the way you spend your entire life making sure it never happens again, let's say you've got a belief that women will leave, is by keeping yourself single, because it's not safe to be with someone. It's not safe to let her in because she'll leave again. Right. That's what's going on in your subconscious. And you have to understand how much more powerful your subconscious is than your conscious mind. Okay. It's a lot. All right. Your conscious mind is like higher thinking and, let me ponder about that and this and that. Your unconscious mind is survival. It's like, get the fuck out of the cage. There's something with teeth in there. You know what I mean? And it doesn't really need to be any more complicated than that. And you don't even need to be threatened. You just need to think you're being threatened. Like, if your mom leaves when you're 5 or when you're 6, and you spend your entire life avoiding deep relationships with women so that you don't have to feel that pain again. Like, you have to understand the power that comes with in your system. Like, you'll do anything to not feel that again. And so you don't feel it again. So it's really, it's really incredibly powerful. I think one of the great fallacies of our time is actually that we don't think the world, what happens to us, has anything to do with us. We still kind of think it's unrelated. And that's kind of the accepted belief, but boy, it's not the empowered one, because as soon as you go to that place, and I think you'll agree, Caitlin, as soon as you go to that place of, it's not me, you're helpless. You're in victim mode. And then you can't fix it. You can't make anything better. So if you're single, we're just getting some comments on Facebook, and thank you guys so much for writing. People saying I've never gotten a chance, right? Truthfully, some of us just get rejected all the time and are never even getting a chance. So and that's how it looks. Like, I believe you. You're not correct, but that is how it looks. I understand that's how it looks, and it really, really, really looks that way. Honestly, if I hadn't been in this work for 15 years and seen it turn around hundreds and hundreds of times, enough that I will speak with this level of confidence, I would have felt the exact same way. I've been like, maybe it's just you. Maybe it's never that, right? It's something that's going on inside you, but it's not something that's unlovable about you. That's not what's keeping you single. Does that make sense?
Dominey, I really liked when you said accepted versus empowered. I spent, 20 years accepting what was happening to me, just accepting it, or I don't know if I would even call it accepting it, letting it happen.
Yep.
And what a difference to see it for what it is and truly have an empowered mindset, instead of just letting things happen to me or accepting that these things are happening and I'm the victim, I have control.
Yes.
And that's very empowering.
That is massively empowering. Yes.
Yeah, I really liked when you said that. I just want to point that out.
Yeah, that's really great. I appreciate you saying that. It's really, and we also, I also would be remiss if I didn't mention how tempting it is to stay in victim mode. Okay. So it looks just so much easier. It's like, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. I'm single.
Mm-hmm.
If I were, it's especially with single, and I think that's part of why I wanted to work in this area, is because it looks very much like it has nothing to do with you. If you're just, I'm single, I'm out there, I'm doing all the right stuff, and everyone agrees with you, and there's some pleasure in that. There's like, see, I'm right, I'm being good, and your friends be like, yeah, God, you are. What's wrong with everybody else? You're like, I don't know. Yeah, God. So that's called collusion. Okay. And it feels great. It's like being at a political rally where everybody agrees with you, right? It feels good momentarily. It feels good momentarily, but it does not actually solve your problem. It doesn't make you less single. It just makes you feel better in the moment. Same as the same thing with gossip. Talking about other people really almost any time they're not there. Almost. There's very little, if you think about it, what good could come out of that? Like, how will that make you or them better people? What's the actual intent there? And often what I have found is that there's rarely a positive intent for talking about somebody when they're not there for extended periods of time. But I mean, that took me a long time. I used to do that all the time. It was like, oh yeah, can you believe her? Oh my gosh, can't believe da da da. And it's like, well, okay, it might feel good in the moment, but are we actually improving our lives at all? And in that way, it's really, again, what is you and what is not you in the situation? Okay, it's not that there's no intention where you could speak about a person. Caitlin and I could sit here and talk about the Queen of England. And I might say, yeah, she seems quite lovely. I've never met her, but I'm sure she's, whatever. And nothing bad may come of it. But the intention really matters. And that's the case with everything. So let's come back to dating. So you're single, right? You're wanting a partner. A lot of the guys we talk to have never even thought about why they want a partner or what kind of partner they want. So, and sometimes we'll say, okay, so that's what you want. You want a partner. What is it? What's your intention in that? And sometimes the intention is not a healthy one, right? I feel like I should be with someone. I don't want to be alone. Getting into a relationship because you don't want to be alone. If you're trying to get into a relationship because you don't want to be alone, whether you consciously know that or not, you will probably not get into a relationship. I mean, you could, but it probably won't be a healthy one that probably won't last very long. You can actually get into it because, you can still attract what you want, but if what you want is to not be alone and that's enough, that's it, then you're not really looking for a great relationship. You're just looking for any relationship. And so you can definitely find any relationship. The guys that we work with specifically are looking for long-term, sustainable, fulfilling relationships. They want them to be really good. So, So from that perspective, if you have an underlying belief that you should be a husband or you should have children because you're 40 or you're, all your friends are getting married and you're starting to feel embarrassed, it's like, okay, well then a lasting, sustainable relationship may not actually be what you want. It's possible that you just need to, become comfortable, grow a little and be comfortable being alone. Is that making sense, Caitlin?
Oh yeah. I just when listening to you and thinking about some of the calls, and I hear that a lot. You definitely hear.
She's talking about our clients calling in, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't know what to say when people ask me, why am I not married, or why don't I have children? I don't know what to say, or I feel embarrassed, like you said, or, there's a lot of social and a lot of social things going on there as well. What we're supposed to do by this time.
Shoulds.
And that pressure from that as well. So, it's what do you really want? Not what society thinks is appropriate.
Right.
We're looking for what do you want on the inside.
What do you really want?
Sometimes.
It can be very difficult to get. Yeah. Because a lot of people have never thought about it. Oh, okay, great. What do you want a relationship for? And it may sound silly. People probably don't ask that very often, but if it's something that you want so incredibly badly, it'd certainly be worth examining, right? Be worth looking at. So then you get into your relationship, okay? You have your relationship, it runs its course, and you break up, okay? One of the things that Caitlin and I see a lot of in our business is people who have a really hard time letting go of exes, okay? So one of the ways, or one of the reasons perhaps, that people aren't able to attract a relationship is sometimes because they're still holding on to shit from their past. Okay. They're still holding on to previous relationships. They're not over it. And they'll come right out and tell us, they'll say, what do you think it is that's keeping you single? And they'll say, oh, I'm not over my ex. Okay. So I really wanted to address that and to do an episode on that because it's really quite prevalent. And I think that people genuinely don't have any idea how to let that go, how to move out of that space. And so that's what I want to speak with you about today. So first, let's start into, then we've already chatted a little bit about this, why it is that we get into the relationships that we do. Okay. So we start out with, okay, we want to get into a relationship, and let's say that you really actually genuinely do want to get into a relationship. So then out of the, 5 people that you go out with and you find one, you guys get into a relationship. So what is it that drew you specifically to that one person? Okay. So basically we get into relationships with people because that person matches us or fits us in some way. Okay. But attraction can occur on a lot of different levels. Okay. So there can be positive reasons to get into a relationship, and there can be negative reasons to get into a relationship. And I'm using the words positive and negative here. Those are really essentially meaningless kind of human terms of things that we like and things we don't like. But, and so generally I tend to avoid them, because really if you got into a relationship for a negative reason, quote unquote, you may have gotten a lot of growth from that. That could ultimately be positive. So try not to get hung up on sort of the goods and the bads, because those ultimately don't have any meaning in life at all. So, but so we're speaking from more of sort of a social level here. Okay. So the positive reasons to get into a relationship. So the same thing that we were just saying about, there may be good reasons that you want to get into a relationship and bad reasons why you want to get into a relationship, right? Good reason is, I feel like connecting with a human being and growing through a relationship. And a negative reason might be, my mom told me I should, right? Or that's what everybody else is doing. Sort of reasons that are based outside of you and you're not really considering what it is that you want to, what it is that you want inside. So the same way that wanting to get into a relationship can be positive or negative, actually getting into the relationship can be negative or positive. So a positive reason to get into a relationship, you may feel that person will help you grow, right, into the person that you want to be. You're sort of drawn to them. Your core qualities complement each other, right? So core qualities are things like kindness, strength, assertiveness, creativity, qualities of a personality, right? So if your core qualities complement each other, right? So you both like to volunteer, or you both like to snuggle, or you both, you have common interests and desires. You're both environmentalists, and you want to, travel the world talking to people about, not cutting down trees. That's the person I'd be dating. Or, you have core qualities that kind of complement each other, but aren't the same, in the sense of, somebody's a real giver, and I'm more of a receiver, and that works really well because that person wants to give and I want to receive. Or let's see, one person is more outgoing and, leads us to social situations and brings us out to clubs, and left to my own devices, I'll stay introverted at home in the house, kind of not doing anything, and I'll do that too much. And so we kind of balance each other out in that way. And that, I think, is where the phrase of opposites attract comes from. I think. I don't really know where the phrase came from, but that's what I've always thought of when I've heard it. Or, you just want to. That's also a good positive reason to get into a relationship. So negative reasons that you may end up in a relationship. Your defenses match. Okay. So while we have core qualities and we have natural gifts that come to us very easily and effortlessly, we also have defenses. Okay. If you are the type of person who will default to staying in and you're naturally introverted, introversion is not a defense. It's a quality, actually. But if you over introvert, right? If you won't get out of your house without needing some motivation, then that core quality of introversion kind of melts into a defense of stagnation, perhaps. Okay. So, if I have a tendency towards stagnation, I'd really rather not move. And then I get in a relationship with a guy who would also really rather not move, then we will not go anywhere. Right. So that would be an example of our defenses, stagnation, matching each other. Okay. One makes me feel good. Or if I have negative beliefs about myself. Okay. I genuinely inside think that I'm a piece of shit and I'm totally worthless. I may be attracted to someone who tells me that I'm a piece of shit and totally worthless, because on some level that will reaffirm.
The collusion again, almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's proving me right. Okay. Defenses are formed out of these sort of underlying beliefs, right? So the beliefs from childhood where you grow up, women will leave me. It's like, so if you are that child, your mother left when you were 6 and you grew up with a belief that women will leave you, then when you come to Caitlin and I and you're 35 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, and women, the pattern will usually be women have always left you. Okay. Because you're proving yourself right. That's why those underlying beliefs are a problem. That's why they keep you single. So you will literally have this pattern. You're like, I don't know why every woman I'm with leaves me. I have no idea why. And we'll go, okay. And we'll work our way back into your psyche, and we will find the moment where you made the decision that women will leave you. So when we find that, then it becomes conscious. See how it's made the shift now from the subconscious back here to the conscious mind. That's what happens when you learn, when you have insights about yourself, when you have revelations, right? So you're having these revelations, and suddenly you're aware of so much more. All of a sudden you're like, oh wait, so this isn't just everyone else. Like this is something I can do something about. Yes. Then your world shifts a little bit. Boom. Right? Excuse me. So if you're both stagnant, you may, he gives you an excuse to be stagnant, right? Maybe you're both codependent. Okay. Codependent people would probably work really well together in a relationship. Or maybe you give all the time and she takes all the time, or vice versa. Okay. If you're those two introverts on the couch that aren't going anywhere, and you're both sort of enhancing each other's, or enabling each other's defenses, it will feel good to be in that relationship. not feel good in like a, oh, I'm growing and I feel strong and I'm in my body and things like that. It's not like that because there's very much growth happening there, right? So it won't feel like healthy, but it will feel good, like the collusion and the gossip. So it'll feel fun. It'll be like, yeah, here we are. You need me, I need you. It's like this kind of, this negative pleasure situation. And that's the same thing if I'm dating someone who has negative self-image or thinks they're worthless, and I tell them they're worthless all the time. That will, in some weird way, feel good to both of us, but it's not healthy for either. So be aware of that. Negative pleasure, it'll still feel good, but it won't actually be good for you. So other negative reasons to get into a relationship. You feel you should be with her, right? Maybe you feel sorry for her. You feel like you're saving her. You don't want to hurt her. This is some of the most significant bullshit I think I've come across, is people like, oh, I really want to break up with her or him, but I don't want to hurt him. It's like, what?
Yeah.
What? How does that in any way? First of all, you think that person wants to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't like them? Like, really? Is that the low opinion that you have of this person that you're currently dating? That's not very impressive. You're obviously not that excited about it because you're making that statement of, I'm really not that into it, but, then it's pity. Then it's taking responsibility for her emotions. You're deciding she's going to be hurt. Maybe she's having the same conversation with her girlfriend right now. Maybe she's like, yeah, I really wish you would dump me, but I can't bring myself to do it because I don't know. You don't know. Don't ever take responsibility or think you know what someone else is thinking. Just take that totally out of your mind, out of your head. Okay? It feels like we're right. Inside us, we're like, oh yeah, I definitely know how she'll react if I say this and what'll happen. You're like, it has not. You are wrong. You're not just wrong, you're delusional. Okay? For those moments where you're like, if you're in a club, right? And there's a hot girl at the bar and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to go, I'm going to go say hi to that woman. Or you decide that you can't go say hi to that woman because she is super beautiful. So people are attracted to her, and people go up and talk to her all the time. And there's no way you would stand a chance. And this whole world that you create in your head, and you're creating it in your head. You're deciding who she is, what her life experience is like, how people react to her, how she's going to feel about you. You're drawing these conclusions that you have no evidence for whatsoever. All you see is a woman that you find attractive. It's possible nobody else finds her attractive. It's also possible everybody finds her attractive and is totally intimidated like you're being right now, and no one ever goes up and speaks to her. It could be that she's terrible and you wouldn't want to date her anyway. Could be she's the love of your life and you are screwing yourself right now. Either way, no matter what the situation, as soon as you're drawing other people's boundaries, you're guessing what they're thinking, deciding for them, and then acting accordingly is wildly inappropriate because you're operating on no information. You have no idea what the actual situation is. And so be aware of that. And so then you go, oh yeah, I saw this girl, but there was no way. She's way out of my league. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe she was 300 pounds a year ago and she just lost a lot of weight and she doesn't really, she's not used to being pretty. There's infinite numbers of ways this can go. So try not to generalize, oh, women do this. Oh, men do this. Nope. Not accurate. It's just never going to be accurate unless you've met every single man and every single woman and asked them. And then if you have, then you can go ahead and generalize. So, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh no, just the story of the girl in the club reminded me of my homecoming, my senior year. Homecoming. Not a single person asked me. I was on the homecoming court.
Oh.
I had, I didn't know. I've never been on the homecoming court in my life. I didn't even really like to go to dances. I wasn't really into school that much, but no one asked me. And finally I said, Mom, I don't know what's wrong with me. Not a single, I have all these, guy friends, and not a single person asked me. And she said, well, why don't you ask them? I'm like, oh, shit.
I didn't know that was an option.
I guess I could. Yeah, I was just assuming that they didn't want to because they didn't come up to me. And that's just assuming away. That doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
So of course I did. I would go up and ask him. I asked me. He's like, of course I will. I just thought you'd already been asked.
Another good one. Everybody's assuming that she's already been asked. I'm not going to go up to her. She's been approached 15 times tonight. I'm sure of it. No, you're not. You're assuming. You're assuming and you're out of reality. And both of you are screwed by the end. You and the hot girl. Because she's now, going home alone, or she's single, or she's, who knows? Now, if you go up to them and they start playing games, then you've got some direct evidence. Like, okay, she's playing some games. All right. So now, do you still want to talk to that woman, or do you not? Yeah, that's a great example. Thanks for that. So, other negative reasons people get into relationships: you feel that you should be with her, you feel that you have to be with her, you feel you have to be with someone and she'll do. Anything like that. So, but regardless of what it is that really brought you into that relationship, there was probably some pretty serious growth that happened. If this is a relationship you're still hung up on, then it was probably serious. Okay. Especially if it was a deep relationship. And to be clear, deep doesn't necessarily mean long. Okay. There have been, relationships that lasted a few days that stayed with me for a very long time, very deep spiritual connection. And that's great. That's fine. So deep connections can happen very quickly, and it's not like you're more likely to be hung up on someone that you've been with for a long time than someone you haven't. It's what keeps you hung up is how finished you are with the relationship. So if you're not finished with it, if you are not finished with it, not her or him, because again, you can't control them. You can't control them. All you can do is control yourself. So where might you be hanging on? Right? Where is it that you might be holding on and refusing to let go of this? So the first step is to watch yourself for self-judgment. Okay. I think Caitlin, there we go. So we have a comment on the Facebook Live about a 2-month relationship. It says 2-month relationship, worst heartbreak of my life. And it's absolutely true. You can be for someone for years, and it can be, and you can also be with someone who's you can be in a really great relationship with someone, and then let it, and then not have it be that effect or not be that sad when it's over. And you can also have a really, really shitty relationship with someone that you can't get out of. It's like we're terrible for each other, but we just keep coming back. It's like, okay, so there's all these connections. Yeah, right? It gets huge. So on an energetic level, okay, we're talking energy here. We're talking like fields, your energy field. On an energetic level, when you connect with someone, there are actually chords that are created. And seeing and perceiving and feeling energy is a skill. Okay, it's not a gift. I mean, it's like any characteristic. You might come easily for some and more difficultly for others. But the actual perceiving of it, the actual feeling of energy is just something that you learn. It's one of the things that we learn when we work with our clients, because a lot of social interactions and flirtations and attraction, that's all happening on an energetic level, right? So for example, if you see, like Caitlin, have you ever seen someone standing there, like a man standing, and it's just absolutely beautiful, like just, chiseled jaw or cheekbones or abs or whatever. And you sort of go, wow, that's a really beautiful creature, but you don't feel any actual attraction to him?
Yes. very hollow, or something's in the way, or you can tell that they're beautiful and that they're aesthetically pleasing, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's where it goes for me.
That's it. And that's really the difference between physical beauty and attractiveness. Okay. Attraction is exactly what it sounds like. It's pulling something towards you. It's magnetic. Okay. The opposite is also true. You can have someone who's just not aesthetically beautiful at all. You'd be like, that is not a beautiful person, but you are drawn to them and you're sexually attracted to them. And you're like, you know, there's like this, oh, I've got to have it. I've got to, you know, what is that? I've got to get it. And, you know, so beauty is like, oh, that's really pretty. That's like really nice to look at. And of course there's overlap, you know, our prettier people, they maybe tend to be more attracted, or at least they get ins more. They sort of, people open doors, are more inclined to open doors to them. But that's not what creates a lasting relationship. Okay. Or a really good, deep relationship, whether it's lasting or not, that's up to you. I'm not, you know, I'm all for one night stands, and I'm all for friends with benefits and casual relationships and open relationships. And however it is that you want to form this is great. All of that's wonderful. And do it in a way that serves you, that fulfills you. You know, a one night stand can be incredibly fulfilling, incredibly spiritually fulfilling, and you can get a lot of growth from it. So those can be really, you know, that can be really powerful. So when you get into these relationships, there are actual energetic chords, okay, that are between you and this person. And when you, I don't know if you can pinpoint it, but when you start getting into a relationship, there are little moments where you feel your heart, where you feel your heart open, and you get this sort of rush of pleasure. It's probably, you know, you probably got oxytocin happening in your brain. That's actually when the chord is forming. It feels good to form chords. That feeling, that sort of gutted feeling when you break up, and there's so much pain, it's like your heart hurts. That's the chords breaking. That's the feeling of them being cut. Which is why it hurts even more when it comes from one side and not both, because now you're being here and the other person's cutting the cords, and that feels painful. It feels emotionally painful. So the cords, so a lot of staying hung up over exes is because you're still holding on. Those cords are still there. Okay. And that can look a couple different ways. It can look like, you miss her and you're sad that she's gone and you want her back. That's sort of the more obvious way of holding on, right? You know, that was an amazing relationship. I wasn't ready for it to end. I'm sorry that it's ended. And then you're kind of locked in that place because you're not getting past it, right? So, and I find this to be common. I've experienced this myself. You get out of a relationship that, you know, you weren't trying to end, and it's like this, it's like you're still ready to be in it. You're so caught off guard, and just terrible pain in your heart. Usually that's where it is for me. So you might still miss her, right? There may sort of be that, but you also may be holding on in a different way, like spending so much of your time angry at her or fighting against her or fighting against the situation. Man, fuck her. Can you believe that she left and da, 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 and I don't need her anyway, and she's the worst, and let me tell you all the ways that she's the worst. And you're like, you're still talking about her. She's still in your life. No matter how much you hate her, hate doesn't like push someone away. It's just a strong emotion. So either way, if you still miss her, you still love her, or you absolutely hate her, either way, you're still holding on. And so it's going to be hard to actually move past it because there's a letting go that's required to move past something.
Dominey, if you don't mind me saying, so my last relationship, I hated him. Oh, did I I hated him with all of the bad words.
During, even when you're in the relationship?
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Anyway, very, very strong hate emotion.
Mm.
And when I got out of the relationship, after about 3.5 years, I decided, okay, in my conscious mind, I decided I'm going to forgive him for the things that we've been through, and that will help you release that. So consciously, I wrote him, I think I wrote him an email, and I said, okay, look, I understand we're done. I don't think we can really be friends at this point. If you need anything, let me know, because that's how I worked at the time. I thought that was a positive thing.
Mm.
But I tried to consciously forgive him, and that didn't work.
Mm.
So I could consciously, my logical brain, say to myself, okay, well, I forgive him for the things that happened, and I grew from them, and that's fine. But tell you what, I still had dreams about killing him.
Ooh.
I had dreams that I could not get him out of my head. I mean, for probably about 2.5 years, I continued to have dreams of
Wow.
me taking him out, or trying to remove him from my life, or life in general.
Yeah.
And it's probably been about in the last year I could finally say, I had a dream, he was there, he was just there. I didn't try to kill him, I didn't hate him anymore. It's just someone in my dream that was there for a moment and is gone now. And I can't tell you how different that feels, looking at it, because that was probably that probably started to be the end of all of those chords. Really, truly,
the actual letting go. Mm-hmm.
The actual letting go, not the, okay, I'm gonna let go now, bye. But the, you know what? Yeah. When I talk about him, I don't get really upset anymore. It's more of a, that happened. Yep. And we abused each other, and that happened. And I tell you what, I learned a lot from that relationship. And I was probably still learning a lot about that relationship up and, for 2 years after it. Maybe even longer. But now that I feel that way, and it wasn't anything I did consciously, it just happened. After I feel like I've learned a lot from that relationship, and really feel like I've learned not all that I could, but a lot that I could. I learned a lot, especially working with you. Wouldn't be possible if I didn't work with you. Let me just say, it probably would have taken years and years and years longer, because I am one of those people that hold on to things very, very tightly.
You tend to hold on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and wow, what a difference it is now. I have very vivid dreams, and when he's there, I'm like, hey man, all right, well, I'm not trying to slit your throat anymore. I'm not trying to remove you from my dream anymore. You're there, and thank you.
I love that, because what you started out saying is that you were seeking to forgive him, and that you tried to do that consciously. And that is brilliant, because I think a lot of people make that mistake. They're like, okay, I'm going to forgive you. All right, I've forgiven you. And because they're not like angry in the moment. But the actual indication of forgiveness is when they don't matter to you anymore. Is when you've actually let go. It's not, oh, my mom was always invasive, and then I finally set the boundary, and so now I'm continually setting boundaries, and she won't ever invade me again. It's like you're still being invaded because you're still focusing on the boundary all the time. at some point you don't even need the boundary anymore. You can just be like, she'd be like, oh, you know, and she starts to do her thing and you just go, no, mom, no, thank you, I'm good. So he shows up in your dream and you go, hello, that happened.
Yeah.
Right? Actual acceptance. Forgiveness is actually acceptance. It's the same thing. And when it's forgiveness, you're finished. You're over it.
And another point I wanted to make is, at the time I tried to forgive him, I didn't think I did anything wrong.
Okay, good piece. So there was a desire to forgive him, but an unwillingness to own your own piece of what happened, to take self-responsibility for your part of the relationship.
And I might have done that like in little pieces and very little, you know, oh, well, I could have done this or I could have done that. But at this point, I now truly understand why we had those bonds. A lot of negative pleasure happening. He needed to be taken care of. I was very much the caretaker, and we overdid it.
So that's great. So. That's another great example. So that's what we were talking about before. The defenses match, right? One's codependent and one likes to feel needed, or her identity is wrapped up in caretaking or in saving or in anything like that. So guys do that all the time. The rescuing of females. And if it actually ended up in a happy ever after, I would have no issue with it. But unfortunately, you know, you're just kind of helping the other person not grow.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Carry on. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I just I felt like I even went backwards in that relationship. Instead of growing, I lost. I got very much wrapped up in that identity of, I need to take care of him. If I don't, he won't make it. He won't, you know, of course there was manipulation happening there as well. I'm on both sides. But at one point he said, if you leave me, I'll try and kill myself. I'll kill myself. And so there's a lot of things happening there as well, but I fed right into it. I was the caretaker, so I needed to help him regardless of if I wanted to be in that relationship anymore. And there was a very strong, I need to help regardless of how I feel. And what is wrong with that, huh?
That is so great. And I love how comfortably you talk about it and how comfortably you take self-responsibility. You're like, yep, I fucked that up. And then I was also doing this. I mean, if you guys pay attention to what was just said, there was nothing said about him and what he needed to do. You said that he needed to be taken care of, which I imagine he probably just said outright. But there was no responsibility was on him in the story that you just told. You know, you're like, these things happened. You spoke about specifically what you experienced happening, and then took the approach of, here was my piece. And then afterwards, when I was trying to forgive him, I wasn't willing to own my piece. I mean, it's like just being super, super real. This is perfectly modeling the way that you get over an ex. This is exactly it. This is the process. You know, when you own your piece, like that's the last piece I was going to say is, as far as why people stay hung up over exes, is that sometimes there's more processing or growing that you need to do around it. So if you haven't, you know, if you have somebody that you're having a hard time letting go of, or they're coming up in dreams, they're coming up in, you know, in conversation, or emotionally it's bothering you, things like that. Okay. So, you know, what is it that, you know, you go back. All right. That brings us to our next piece. And Kayleen just modeled that so brilliantly. You know, what to do about it, right? So here you are, you're hung up on an ex. What can you actually do to, you know, create some change in that? So one is going back and examining the relationship and looking at it without the drama of being inside of it, which is exactly what you just, what you did in the years following your relationship, Kaylin. So you can ask yourself, what do I still have to learn here? Right? See what comes. Let yourself be surprised by the answer. And that's incredibly powerful. That's incredibly powerful. Did you ever find yourself consciously going back? Now I know that you just started working with me and you just started kind of waking up a lot in your life from the sort of, default life that autopilot that everyone tends to be on. And that was several years after this relationship. But was there ever a point when you sort of look backwards and were like, oh, maybe I'm holding on to X, Y, and Z, and that might be why I'm having a hard time letting go of him?
There was definitely times where, so that default life, I existed only in that life. I never knew anything else. I spent so long just not understanding why things were happening, and just letting whatever happened to me happen. So I lived very much in that that numb space. I was very numb, and I was comfortable there. So when I actually started using my brain, and it was not just my brain, but everything else in me, I was like, at one point I remember thinking, what is holding me to this person? What is it? Why can't I leave them? Why can't I let them go? Why do they have such an impact on my life? And I took psychology in college and things like that. So of course I went into the chemicals. What chemicals is it? How do I remove them? What is it in my brain that is holding me?
I will think this out of existence.
Well, I will try to think it. And that's kind of, I think, where I was going when I tried to forgive him consciously, tried to forgive him. And it's
coming from your head. Your head's like, I should definitely forgive him. Yeah. But that's not where forgiveness happens. Forgiveness doesn't happen in the head. It's not a thought. If I were like, you should forgive him, and you'd be like, yes, I agree with that. It's like, logically, that does make sense, because then you'll be able to let go of it. Yes, I agree. That whole conversation is a matter of, is in heads, right? And forgiveness happens in the body. It's actually a letting go that happens like in your cellular body. It's like that deep. Yeah.
And so, no, when I was in the relationship, I was numb, and at one point I didn't even bother thinking consciously, because that would hurt. So once I realized that I was so closed off, I don't think during the relationship I ever took a second to really think, what am I doing that's affecting this?
And you can't. I mean, you really, it's not that you can't, but it's really difficult. It's like trying to get proper, perspective on your life while you're addicted to something. It's like, you can't. By definition, you can't. You're struggling with an addiction. And we have a great comment. Thank you so much, Phil, for commenting on the Facebook Live. He said, this story is so familiar. 1 year on, I'm still not over my ex, friend zoned. I can't let go because she still contacts me. And that actually dovetails perfectly to what Caitlin was saying. You need space to get over something. Yeah. And maybe I didn't even think of that. Thank you very much, Phil, for bringing that up, because that's, I was sort of assuming you were already out of relationship. Phil, you need to tell that woman not to contact you anymore. Unless you are planning on getting back together with her, which you're probably not, because they're your exes and it's been a year. If it's bothering you even enough to write that comment, she needs to be out of your life. Okay? And she may not want to go, right? These things aren't always mutual. She may not want to go, but you need to draw a boundary, okay? Because as long as you guys are still in each other's lives, you're not going to get over. Or you're going to get over at a snail's pace, as opposed, it's going to be 10 years, and then you'll be like, okay, now we really love each other and we're friends. Fine. Just take a year and have lunch and see if you want to be friends at that point. If not, that brings up a lot of stuff. Great. Go another year or go another 6 months, but you need to get out of the situation, get yourself some space. It's really important.
I physically moved.
Oh, really?
I physically moved out of the state.
Sometimes you need to do that.
Yeah.
I had an invasive mother. I had to go to Australia just to escape the chords. I mean, it's huge. I want to add in some tips here before we close about really what you can do, because we talked about getting space, which is really important, and going back and examining the relationship and looking at it with fresh eyes and seeing what else is there for you. That's really, really, that's the key point. But other tips and tricks. Okay. So you can try and remove the chords. Okay. You can do that yourself. Energy moves with intention. Okay. So if you close your eyes and you follow your breath a little bit and you kind of settle in, and you visualize these chords between you and this person, and let whatever comes to you come. It might be one huge chord, or it might be a bunch of small ones, or something in the middle. But visualize the chord connecting with your ex, and then visualize it letting go or being destroyed or disappearing. And keep doing this until it's actually kind of difficult to bring up the picture of the chord at all. And that's how you know it's working. Okay. So if it's difficult to kind of remember chords, like immediately you'll be like, oh yeah, there's chords, lots of chords. And as you kind of practice letting them go, it'll be more difficult to imagine them being there. Okay. That's how you know that it's working. So, and there will probably be more than one. So give it time, and then, do it again. And then you can also just shift your focus from it. Okay. That's what we talked about before, as far as the negative, hanging on, in addition to the positive hanging on. I guess there's no positive hanging on, but the I miss her and I love her still versus the I'm mad at her all the time. Shift your focus from it. Okay. If you're angry at your ex all the time, you're still giving them power. Okay. Put your attention and focus only on the things that you want more of. Seriously, if you take nothing else from this episode, try this exercise. Try it for just like a day. Okay. Put your attention and focus only on things you want more of, and just let yourself see the difference that makes in your life. And then the last one is stop resisting it. Okay. Resisting watch the judging yourself for still hanging on, or resisting still hanging on, or anything like that. Just let it go. Okay. Turn your focus elsewhere. And then if you want that additional, personal development piece, then go back, examine the relationship, and ask, what do I still have to learn here? See what comes. Let yourself be surprised by that. It's a very powerful exercise. Anything else I've left out, Caitlin?
Oh,
I don't think so.
I love it. No, I don't think so. I love what you said about the chord, because I can't even imagine any chords
great.
now.
That's great.
Yeah.
That probably means that there aren't any.
But thank you so much for having me.
Yes, of course. Always. Yeah. And good. So Phil just sent a message saying that that was amazing advice. Thank you. Absolutely, Phil. Thank you so much for your question. I appreciate that. Always want to encourage you guys to reach out. I'm very available. I made this my business because this is truly what I love to do. Caitlin can contest. This is just all I can attest to that. I love this work so much. It's absolutely the love of my life. So reach out, send me messages. We're here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. The recordings of these are put up on YouTube. Okay, you can just Google Dominey Drew on YouTube. All of the past episodes are there, and they're also available on my business page, the Dominey Drew Coaching, Consulting, and Speaking. So I think that's our show for tonight. We'll go ahead and sign off here. Caitlin, thank you so much for being my partner in crime.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.